We're going to switch over to looking at math scores for the Lake Placid School District. And this is a comparison of 7th grade and 6th grade math scores as they have progressed through time. This is not the same cohort as we saw in the previous slide. So for example, the 7th graders in 2014 are a different class than the 7th graders in 2015. And again, a different class of 7th graders for 2016. But if you look at that red line for the 7th graders, you can see that their performance on the state math test is improving over time. So this is the percentage of children scoring in the proficient range. And in 2016, for example, you will see 31% of our children scored in the proficient range. That's in comparison to 2014, when only about 17% of the children scored in the proficient range. Now, the question is, how can that improvement be accounted for? The hope is that most of those improvements are accounted for through some of the initiatives we have implemented to closing that achievement gap, which we'll talk about in later slides. But we also have to keep in mind that it's important to disaggregate the data from time to time and make sure there aren't individual differences between classes that account for that data. And in fact, there's a little bit of an artifact going on with the 6th grade class, if you will look at that blue line on the top. In 2014, about 28% of the children, 6th graders in 2014, scored in the proficient range. And that performance improved in 2015, and it still improved somewhat in 2016, but there was a little bit of a dip backwards. And one of the things that can account for that was that in 2016, we had a number of students refuse to take the New York State math performance test. So their parents sent in letters to the district saying, we don't believe these tests are helpful to our children, and therefore we're refusing to take it. And so of those children that refused to take it, there were a number of typically higher scoring children. So that could certainly account for that little bit of a dip down in 2016, or there could be other reasons why it dipped down a little bit. But the overall trend line for the 6th graders over time is a trend of improving scores on the math proficiency test.